you need to look at it on a platter. I will generally designate top and bottom, and the way I make that choice is I want the prettiest material to be at the bottom, because if it's at the top, it's going to get cut away. And so I will generally write top, and I will even mark the thickness that I'm working with on it. Because if I am dealing with a recess on the bottom, like that large platter, it helps to know how much you're dealing with, so that when you start doing the math, you don't cut into the recess in the bottom. So you've got to know how thick your material is that you're working with. Now, there are several different methods of securing your platter piece that you're going to be making to the lathe. One way is with a faceplate. This one and this one have been done with a faceplate. The first thing I should probably do is true up the outside edge. Now, if I just take and run a gouge all the way across, what is going to happen when I blow out? It's going to have a tendency to splinter. So, the way to avoid that or minimize that is make part of your cut and then come from the other direction. And with this being smaller, I can speed it up. I'm running about 1300 right here. Now, since I know that my top is here, I can actually begin to shape some of my platter when it is on the faceplate, which is the best security that I have. Now, platters can be functional. I'll get back on the other side so that I'm in focus. Okay. So, the wider a rim is, the more stable your platter is going to be. So, if I were determining where I'm going to want my rim, I want the rim to be somewhere between 50% of the diameter and 70% of the diameter. So I'm probably right at 11 and a half now. maybe 11 5/8. I'm not too worried about it. So if I take my trusty cell phone and go let's just say 11.5 times, let's say 0.7. Because that would be 70%. That's telling me my rim maximum needs to be 8 inches. Well, if I measure this right here, and my lathe is normally over there, as most of you know, I'm already past 8, but I'm right at 7.5, so I think that's going to be, I may even go just a little less. Let's see what 50% would be. Okay, 11.5 times 0.5. 5 3/4 inches. So, yeah. So now I'm going to work on creating the recess and defining what's going to be the rim. So one of the things, okay, I'm marking so I can really determine where center point is. Let's say I do a 6-inch rim on here. So I put my center point at 3. And that looks a little small, so I may want to go to the outside. There is my rim. Your rim does not have to be real deep. As you can see on, you may have seen it on this one when we were passing around it. The rim is probably only about 1/8 of an inch deep. If you look at your plates and your platters at home, you'll see this kind of stuff. So we don't have to figure it all out. So I'm going to use the parting tool. So there's going to be my rim. All right. So if I look at my minimum socket here, I probably don't want to use this particular chuck because it's too big. It wouldn't leave me enough meat outside the socket to keep it from breaking off. Okay? So, using the smaller chuck, I could probably make my socket anywhere in that neighborhood, size-wise, because this is open pretty much all the way. Okay? Wasn't bad for a guess. Okay? I couldn't make it much smaller than that, but it's going to leave me an extensive amount of meat between the rim and where my socket is going to be. If I cut all this out, it could very well break out. I can come back after the fact and cut this away after I have formed the recess or the socket. Alright, so I'm going to begin with the parting tool once again. Where did I set the face shield down? I try to get in the habit of wearing a face shield all the time. It's just the best thing you can do. Now that I've got a little bit of that waste out of the way, I'm going to switch over to a gouge. That tells me that I had my tool rest too high. I'm going to drop it down just a little bit. If you can see, it was leaving a point right in the center. So I'm going to go back over it one more time. And I got rid of it. Now, to save myself a little bit of work down the road, I'm going to take my Ella Evacera well, it's like a negative rake scraper, but it's not ground like a negative rake scraper. This really cleans things up. And it will save me some sanding down the road. Alright. I'm going to go a little bit more right in the center. What kind of wood is that? This is some big leaf maple burl. It's extremely soft. Now, my recess on the bottom is about 3/16 deep. If I don't get too overzealous, that will work. Okay. The chuck that I'm going to be utilizing on the outside has a dovetail. So I need to go ahead and form that dovetail on the inside prior to taking it off. All right. So I'm going to create a slight dovetail. And if it is at all possible for you to utilize a dovetail on a platter, the dovetail will hold much better than a straight sided jaw. All right. I am ready to finish my outside shape. And I am a proponent of sketching out what you want it to look like pretty close prior to cutting it. So, you know, the 1/4 inch grid paper makes it real easy. I'll almost always sketch out more than one shape because my first idea may not be my best one. Now, while this basic shape is functional, it is not the best looking shape there is. So I think what I'm going to do is adjust my tool rest where I can get in here more at a parallel angle to the existing cut so I can go ahead and create the shape that I'm wanting. Okay, now I've gone just right down to the rim. What I've done is I've given it somewhat of an OG shape. Now, I know, because I have done this, you know, a lot of times we focus in on the wood, the cut. That's not a lot of what you need to be watching during a demonstration. You know, what you need to be doing is watching the hand position. Watch how my body moves to make these different cuts. You will actually learn more about technique by watching those two things than by watching where the tool is cutting on the wood. So, I'll make this shape one more time and watch how my body moves. I need to get the tool rest a little closer. I would rather err on the side of caution Okay, that's not bad for an initial shape. I turn it off so I can see how much grain tear I have. Now, this is a soft wood. It's going to tear out grain. Let's just see, untreated, how good I can get it. Okay, you can make any scraper into a negative rake scraper by just cutting a bevel or an angle on the top going down to meet the bottom. All right. Okay? So I'm looking to see how well it is cutting in the areas where the grain is torn. Maybe so, maybe no. Okay? Sometimes speeding it up a little bit will help. Making a lighter cut will help. Not banging your tool into the wood like I just did would help. Now I'm liking the shape a whole lot more. Now, you may or may not have noticed it. A lot of times my focus is right here. Well, that doesn't help me see the shape. Sometimes you will see my head go up to where I'm looking at this profile right here. Okay? Now, my grain tear out is better, but it's still not perfect. So, I need to do something differently. Okay. This is a mixture of 50% lacquer thinner, 50% lacquer.
That Midwest Woodturners works really well too.
Yep. Now, because this was super soft, this is what I did with this. And this is basically the finish that this has on it. Plus a little bit of wax. So, what I do is just flood this stuff on here. Of course, you want to do this in a well-ventilated area. And as this stuff hardens or dries, after multiple coats, it will harden your wood to an extent, number one, where you can get a better cut. Number two, where you can, get it sanded well. All right, now, you may ask, well, how many coats of this would you recommend doing? As long as it still keeps drinking up this stuff, keep going with it. Now, it would eventually get to the point where, after multiple coats of this, where it would quit accepting this. And I'm putting it on here pretty heavy, but as you can see, most of it is soaking in. I don't think I've had any runoff in the floor yet. And it's making, it's going to make my surface eventually harder. And, I haven't really used all that much. I may have used about an ounce.
That's 50% what and what again?
Lacquer thinner, lacquer.
That's just straight lacquer, that's not the lacquer filler?
No,
Okay.
because the thing I know about lacquer sanding sealer, which you're talking about, is it does not get as hard as lacquer.
Because it's got the filler in it.
That's right.
It will wax it.
Okay, what I'm trying to do is squeeze a little bit out of my rag because I just hate being wasteful. All right, so after I've done this, now I would sand. But since this is a demonstration and y'all don't really, you didn't come to watch me sand, we will reverse this. Yeah. All right. Anytime you are using a face plate, you don't want to use inferior quality screws, such as drywall screws. You want to use sheet metal screws
And if your face plate doesn't have enough holes in it, drill some more.
That's right.
Double the number.
Okay. So, when I am going to be putting this on here, I don't think that one's the one for this.
It's on the ground.
Ah, yes, thank you. One of my favorite Dick Markham quotes is, "The way I keep in shape is bending over to pick up everything I drop." Okay, so I'm in the recess. I want to push as I tighten it up. And I typically will go the wrong way first, just like I did there. Now, if I get all studly with this,
You're gonna hear a sound. You don't.
I could hear a pop, which would mean
Bryce will tell you about it.
that I just fractured the wood, cracked the wood out, and then you want to say bad things.
That was the first demo I ever saw.
All right, now, I think probably the biggest mistake people make is their tool rest height. You know, I want my tool rest set height-wise so that the bottom of the flute is on center. Now, did anyone remember how deep my socket was?
3/16.
3/16. You know, I said that we were going to have to do some math here. All right, my blank started out 1 7/8 thick. How do I remember that? Oh, I've got it written right here, and I've got it written right here. So, I am going to convert 7/8 into 16ths. That's 14/16.
11/16.
And subtract my 3/16 from there. That means that the depth, this becomes a funnel, is at 1 11/16. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with what a funnel is where the inside meets the outside. Okay? If you have not made a funnel yet, you soon will. Because it's just going to happen. It happens to everybody. All right. So, I have to decide now how much depth or how much thickness I want to allow for my bottom. Now, with this being an extremely soft wood that's going to tear out, I'm probably going to allow a little more thickness than I would if this was a super hard wood. So I may say, oh, I want to leave at least a 1/2 inch initially of wood in the bottom to accommodate for sanding. You know, it's better to err on the side of too much than not enough, because you can always cut more wood off. It's kind of hard to put it back on, okay? Which Bryce can attest to. All right, so I now take my 1 11/16 and I subtract 8/16 from that, because 8/16 is the same as 1/2. That means that right now my maximum depth is 1 3/16. I wrote that big so I would remember it. All right. If you have helped out with any of the classes, green thing, where'd it go? I had it out here. Green thing, great. Oh, here it is. My spath that fell off is covering it up. All right. Now, Willard Ellis, one of our former members who has passed away, made these. And so every time I think of this, I think about Willard. So I am going to set the green thing on 1 3/16. And tighten it up. There is the maximum depth of my platter. All right, let's begin making the inside. Now, I have reached the maximum overhang that I can achieve with this little Thompson. So, since this is Lee's wood, I'll use Lee's tool. This was bequeathed to me after he passed away. All right. It is no use setting the green thing unless I check it from time to time. I've got about 1/4 to 3/8 more that I can cut away. You can now see that, you know, if I need to go a little bit deeper, I've got a little bit of room that I can do with the negative rake scraper. And I've got to remember, I've taken a little bit off his. But because I allowed extra here, probably excessively extra, and you know, because I'm getting a fairly decent cut, it's gonna work. All right. Glad you showed up. It is a little after 12, so it is time for us to be done. It has been great seeing everyone.
It is.